Dublin 19 points, Armagh 24 points. Armagh have beaten the Dubs in Croke Park by 5 points in the end. A massive win in the end for Armagh that guarantees them a place in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship quarterfinals. For Dublin, disappointment and despair, and just same old from Dublin from what we've seen throughout the year. Some poor misses, poor shooting, very, very disappointing. But look, take nothing away from Armagh. I don't think this was even Armagh's best performance on the day. To be honest with you, it wasn't. They probably had another gear to go up on, another level to go up on, in my opinion. But look, we're here to break down the game, the match reaction, and everything else. Discuss the game in more detail. Anyone who's tuning in, hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're new to the channel, do consider subscribing. It would be much, much appreciated. But look, firstly, I want to congratulate Armagh as a Dublin fan. You deserve the win today, in my opinion. You were the better team, that goes without saying. I do think Armagh can play better, and I think that's a compliment, in my opinion. The fact you beat us by 5 and you still have another level to go up on, in my opinion, I think is a massive compliment, in my opinion, to the Armagh footballers. For Dublin, just shooting, man. Shooting was absolutely terrible. 17 wide, 16 from play, and looking at our good friend Matthew Hurley, who does some great work over on the Gaelic Statsman Instagram page, like 43% accuracy, 17 shots from 34, or 37. I mean, that is absolutely terrible from a Dublin perspective. Like, shooting wise, really, really poor. And for me, it was like, look, sometimes people might say, oh, well, look at the amount of chances that Dublin created. Look at the amount of shots that Dublin had. That's a positive. Do you know what I mean? Like, Dublin had, in total, they had about, when you're counting the wides and misses together, or the points and wides together. I mean, Dublin had about 36 shooting chances, 36 shots at goal, right? 36 shots at goal, 37 shots at goal. They scored 16. Armagh had 30 shots at goal and scored 19. So some might say, oh, well, if Dublin had had 50% better accuracy, they would have at least drawn the game. But for me, it was more where they were shooting. It was just panic shooting. Like, they were just shooting in silly areas, and it happened more so towards the end of the first half and the second half. And there was some moments in the first half where the shooting was a little bit poor, but it just felt like Dublin panicked, in my opinion. They just felt like they just ran out of ideas a little bit. Didn't want to work goal chances at all. It was like it was almost like as if Dublin were set up to say, we don't want that smoke. Like, let's stay away from goal chances and creating any goals when we clearly needed goals in this game as well. Armagh, coincidentally as well, did similar, but they were comfortable in terms of how the game went. And it was frustrating because, look, breaking down the game and everything else, like, I thought Dublin actually started the game pretty well. Cormac Costello was playing like a man possessed. Like, he was absolutely brilliant in the early stages. Paddy Small back starting in the team was very, very good as well. And for the opening 10-15 minutes, I thought Dublin were actually doing quite well. Like, we were winning the loose balls. We were winning the breaking balls. We seemed to have we seemed to do very, very well off of the Armagh kickouts. And that trend continued throughout the game. Like, even moments in the second half, I thought we did really well winning the ball back. And in particular, Brian Howard, I thought, was phenomenal on kickouts. Padder O'Cuffik Byrne, Killian McGuinness had some good moments as well. So I thought Dublin did really, really well on that aspect in around midfield. I thought we nearly won that battle. But it was just in the final third. Like, we would venture forward. Lorcan O'Dell, who finishes the day with 1 point, don't think he had his best game, to be honest with you. Like, he kicked 1 point, but a couple of poor misses in different moments. And I thought for the opening, 15-20 minutes, we did all right. We kept Armagh at bay. Armagh were kicking a couple of points themselves, but I thought we were doing all right. But probably from about the 24th, 25th minute onwards, that was when Armagh, the final 10 minutes of the first half, that was Armagh really, really took the game away from us. They kicked 2 pointers back-to-back, 2 pointers back-to-back. Rory Grugan and Rian O'Neill. Rian O'Neill's absolutely phenomenal. 6 points in total from him today. And you saw a 2-pointer he kicked at the start of the second half as well, which is absolutely out of this world. He probably has another level to go up on as well, which is, brilliant for Armagh fans because, there's another gear to go up on there. And it just felt like we couldn't cope in that moment. We really, really struggled in that moment to kind of really turn the game around. And Armagh were absolutely brilliant in those moments. That's sort of keeping us at bay and keeping us out. But yeah, like, you have to credit Armagh probably towards the second, the start of the second half. They kept us at bay as much as we tried to get back into it. I've said on numerous times before, and it's similar probably to the Mayo footballers as well. Now, Mayo had a great result yesterday, didn't kick any 2-pointers. Look, they didn't need any. Dublin in the first half, no 2-pointers. We kicked a couple in the second half because we desperately needed them, but you could see there was a number of chances that went wide as well. And it just doesn't feel like maybe we have the players in those moments. Are the players being told not to kick 2-pointers and then we were panicking? I don't really know, but we definitely struggled in certain areas. But a big turning point, in my opinion, in this game was Dublin actually brought the game back down to 5 not long after Sean Bugler kicked a 2-pointer with 20 minutes to go. And three times in a row, Dublin didn't leave three players back, 3 players up, I should say. And three times we breached the rules, and Rory Grugan just had simple tap overs, like the most easiest tap overs. You'll score, he's never going to miss them. And that was just, I make that mistake once, make that mistake twice, but 3 times it was just very, very sloppy and silly from a Dublin perspective. And the crazy thing is, the game was definitely there to be won today, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, shooting wise, fair enough. As I said, we were shooting in poor areas. But as I said, if you score 2, 3, 4 of them chances, some of them with 2-pointers, maybe you win the game, maybe you draw. Look, obviously Armagh probably would have upped the intensity had Dublin came closer to Armagh. Like, it was very, very comfortable towards the end for Armagh. They didn't really have a huge amount to worry about. They were keeping the ball as well for a large part. So, I think context is obviously important, and Armagh might have scored a little bit more if they needed to. But yeah, it was very disappointing in that regards. And I think intensity as well, like from a Dublin perspective, we were good on kickouts, but we just couldn't get close enough to Armagh. I felt like Armagh were just a little bit quicker than us and just better than us. And I think ultimately for Dublin, this is just the level that Dublin's at now, unfortunately. Do you know what I mean? Like, even the full-time whistle goes, you're not seeing Armagh players jumping around and hugging and kissing each other, because at the end of the day, it's just another win now. Do you know what I mean? Like, beating Dublin used to be a huge thing a couple of years ago. And look, it was huge for me this year because it was the first time they did it since 2010. But, everyone's getting a cut of Dublin now, whether it be Armagh, whether it be Galway, Meath have done it this season. It's the second championship defeat of the year. We'll obviously wait and see what happens in a couple of weeks versus Derry, and sort of beyond that, we can't win the group now, so we'll absolutely have a preliminary round game at the bare minimum. It would seem, or at the bare minimum, whether it be home or away. So yeah, just disappointing from a Dublin perspective, shooting wise. The options just aren't there off the bench now as well. To be fair, like, you're looking at it as well, the players we're bringing off the bench: Owen O'Donnell, Luke Breatnock. Lee Gannon came on, kicked 2 points. He looked absolutely shattered, to be fair, after about 10-15 minutes of being on the field. And I don't think the plan was to introduce him, but obviously Colin Basquel picked up an injury of some sort. But look, fair play to Armagh. You have to give them credit. Rory Grugan was outstanding. Rian O'Neill, 6 points. I thought both Joe McElroy and Stephen Campbell, who came off the bench, were really, really impressive as well. And it was comfortable for Armagh, and they showed the sign of champions. They showed the sign of a team that is a step ahead of this Dublin side. I think you saw the difference between a serious contender, a serious All-Ireland contender, and a team that's trying to get in the mix. But there we are. We'll run through some comments here. Colleen says Dublin could have won if they would have take their points. Armagh played well, but struggled with Dublin's purple patch. Stuff to work on for both sides, but set up Armagh nicely into the quarters. That's the thing. I think you'd rather win this game and have stuff to improve on rather than lose. For Dublin, it's like the quality of shooting, the quality of players. It's a hard one to kind of to train and coach that, in my opinion. Is this why we've seen Dublin keep the ball a lot more so and not really work 2-pointers? Because we don't. I don't know if we have the players to actually do it. Do you need to switch it up a little bit, drop Costello a little bit deeper? Obviously, it is worth mentioning not having Conor O'Callaghan was a big miss. But at the same time, you can't be so reliant on one player. You need other players to step in. And I thought there were some even more kind of senior players. Like, I thought Kieran Kilkenny, in my opinion, was a little bit disappointing. Like no points at all in the game. He was brilliant versus Galway. Don't get me wrong; he was absolutely outstanding, and he's one of the best players to play for Dublin in the last 10 years. But you were just looking for a little bit more kind of leadership, a little bit more of a vocal point, and we just didn't really get that, in my opinion. A2 says that was woeful. Poor shot selection, lack of intensity, so slow and ponderous. Armagh far from their best and still won. Do we even beat Derry? Do you know what? Derry, like I seen bits of the game. And Galway nearly kind of pulled it out of the bag at the end from that kind of bizarre late goal from what I seen. But Derry have definitely improved since this group stages have started. They ended the game versus Armagh very, very well. They can seem to win a game, which gives me a bit of confidence that we'll always still be in the mix. But look, it's in a neutral venue. That will suit Derry. Talks about it being in Clonus. That will suit Derry. We have to win the game. You know, if we lose it, we're gone. You know, there'll probably be no third place finish, depending on, you know, because I actually think Galway will probably beat Armagh because Armagh don't need to win that game, so they'll probably rest players and everything else. Galway need to win it, so Galway probably will win it. Do you know that way? So yeah, it is a little bit worrying there. Smart Parents here says we were appalling. Gaelic Eye says mighty amount of wides from Dublin, but we got the job done despite not being at our best. Also said here, do you reckon we'll beat Derry? A2 says 1 step forward against Galway, 2 back today, so annoying. Brian says plenty of positives to take. Had we taken half the chances, we would have won the game. Do you know what? Like, there is some positives there in terms of the chance creation, but it was more so where we were shooting from. Do you know what I mean? Like, how much of those were actually points that we would actually score? Do you know what I mean? That would be more so what I would look towards. There is some positives there. It wasn't the worst Dublin performance in the world. If we play like that versus Derry, we probably would win the game. You know, with a little bit better shooting, I think we win the game. So it's not the end of the world. We are playing the All-Ireland champions, but I don't think this was Armagh at their best as well. Do you know what I mean? And I do think that's worth pointing out. A2 says that Reno O'Neill point start of the second half was an absolute beauty, must be said. Yeah, like to kick that, it just, you know, it just looked so casual. It looked like he was kicking the ball around with his mates, and to pop that over was absolutely brilliant. And he was outstanding today. And he doesn't look like a player who hasn't featured too much for Armagh. That's what I would say. A2 said, what's annoying is the first 15 we were brilliant. We swarmed all over Armagh, worked the space and the scores. Gaelic Eye says Galway a minute off going out with the championship. Imagine the outcry that would have been. Yeah, absolutely crazy stuff. Actually threw the game on whilst on the hill and actually seeing the kind of last goal going in, and you were thinking, Jesus, like, and that goal as well was the most bizarre goal I've ever seen. The ball just bouncing around and it just get hand passed in. If you had been a Derry fan, you're thinking, Jesus, how's our luck here? But they get a draw to keep themselves in it, to be fair. And yeah, incredible to think that Galway very nearly went out of the championship, having been most people's favourites, and maybe reminiscent a little bit of Derry last year in some ways. But there we go. Brian says the first 15 minutes was very encouraging. Cormac Costello and Paddy Small were brilliant. A2 says ref was useless too, but he's not why we lost. No excuses. Yeah, there was probably a few calls with the ref, but I do agree with you. I don't think it's why. I don't think that's it. Brian says mix 6 2 point is the breach for 4-3 was damaging quite a lot of shoots which were left short. Shawnee says the new rules are having a massive effect on the game. Armagh real chance of 2 in a row. Dublin need Con back. Yeah, very, very impressive from an Armagh perspective, it must be said. You know, they've a serious amount of quality. They probably still have another level to go up on as well. It must be said. A2 says injuries are killing us all right, but we're not very good anymore. And Gaelic Eye says, I really think Armagh, Donegal and Kerry are all favourites for the All-Ireland, with the others being slightly further behind. Joe also says here, who would you back for Sam? I probably agree with that as well. I think Armagh, Kerry, Donegal probably are the 3 front runners right now, it must be said. It's an interesting one with Kerry. They haven't faced the same level of opposition that Armagh face, so they could be going into the knockout stages a little bit undercooked. Whereas Armagh have faced serious opposition, and that could absolutely stand for them. It's a hard one to know. Like, the more I kind of look at it, the more I think it's definitely on for Armagh to do back to back. It definitely is. Donegal have maybe had the slight better than them. Donegal obviously winning by 19 points today. As well, it must be said. It's very open. It's between a lot of different teams, and a lot of different teams can be. Dublin could have beat Armagh today. It's not. It wouldn't have been inconceivable, and especially with the chances missed, if they had been a little bit more clinical, maybe they could have won the game. So, there's very little between a lot of teams. I think Armagh, Donegal, and Kerry are definitely the three front runners. I think Tyrone are still, are probably in the next ones to be knocking on the door. I think Galway would have been in the mix, but Galway just seems to be a bit of a mess at the moment. And look, with Armagh being already through, Armagh might rest players and everything else before playing Galway. But could Armagh also look at it and think there's a massive chance here of just beating Galway, knocking them while they're down, and just knocking them out? Because Galway have also been, significant rivals to Armagh in the last couple of years as well. So it is interesting, to be fair. And there's a lot of different teams in the mix. Mayo winning yesterday. Whilst I don't think they'll be in the All-Ireland conversation, they've gotten a big win and they've put themselves in with a chance. And yeah, it's are Dublin going to be there? It feels unlikely, to be honest with you, but who knows? It's it's a very crazy championship season. Dan says, what you think of Donegal, Cavan? Donegal look really impressive. Well, the game wasn't on TV. I was at the Dublin game. You were keeping an eye on it, to be fair. Very, very commanding win for Donegal. They had to respond, to be fair, after the Tyrone win, and they put out a real statement. Very damaging, I think, for Cavan. It's all four teams now on 2 points, but I actually think Cavan on score difference might actually now be bottom of that group. So that's a little bit worrying. The most important thing for Cavan was to just not get hammered, and they did. You know what I mean? And score difference could be hugely important, and that's a big, big blow for Cavan, in my opinion, to have lost by that big of a margin. Do you know that way? But there we are. A2 says so many teams can catch another on at any given day. Whoever strings together some performances and avoid injuries has the best chance. And Brian says the changes we missed are definitely fixable. And Brian also says here, Armagh are very good, and I'd say will be favourites now. And then Donegal and Kerry. And Connor says, I know, really off topic, but Down, holy God, how? Look, big win for Down yesterday. As well, 2 wins on the board. True, strong chance Dublin could play Down as well. Who knows? And that'd be a great occasion as well. A bit of a history to that fixture as well. So it'd be great to kind of see that happen. But there we are. But look, we'll wrap it up here. Ultimately, fair play to Armagh. Much deserved. The better side in the end. As I said, Dublin's shooting let themselves down. Bit of a lack of intensity at different stages. Probably still another level to go up on for Armagh, which I think it is a positive as well. Like, that's not a knock on Armagh. I think the fact that you can go to Croke Park and beat Dublin when you're not your best probably gives you a huge amount of confidence as well. Do you know what I mean? That you have another level to go up on, and Armagh maybe know that they can go up another level as well. And to be fair, in the final 10 minutes of the first half, that was Armagh at their best, and that was when they took the game away from Dublin, in my opinion. And when they needed to score, when they needed to deliver, they did. You know what I mean? And that was ultimately the difference. But for Dublin, it's just been a massive regression the last couple of years, and maybe results like this are going to become more common now over the next couple of seasons. The underage doesn't seem to be there. The talent levels don't seem to be there as well. You've got some stalwarts there, and Kilkenny and Costello and Conn. Obviously, Conn wasn't there today. But the rest of that, a lot of the players just look very average, and they don't look out of place to a lot of other teams in Leinster. And that's just kind of how it is now, in my opinion. But do let us know your opinions in the comments down below. I think Rory Grugan won man of the match, I think, from what I've seen. Listened to his interview as I was leaving Croke Park, so that's fair enough. Look, Rian O'Neill, I thought, to be fair as well, was absolutely outstanding. But do let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'll be back tomorrow for a review of all the weekend's games. And A2 does say here that block from the down lad yesterday. I actually haven't seen any of the highlights yet, so I'll have to check it out. Joe says, I actually think Dublin had more scores than Armagh because of Armagh getting a load of 2-pointers. Yeah, I don't know about that, but I'll have to go back. Brian says the second part of the first half was where the game was lost. Yeah, it was just those final 10 minutes where Armagh took over. And they were very good on our kickouts, and we were very good on theirs, kind of surprisingly. Ethan Rafferty probably had the better of Cluxton in terms of like their own kickouts, but and Cluxton, to be fair, made some big saves as well. It must be said, when Armagh had some big goal chances in the first half. But yeah, look, listen, we'll wrap it up there anyway. Cheers, anyone who tuned in. Let us know your thoughts, your opinions in the comments down below. And until the next one, speak to y'all later.